Hello dear friends, Björn here. Today we will talk about the carnivore diet, which I of course also had to try. So I tried vegetarian diet, vegan diet, green smoothies, not a lot of meat, but also I went the total opposite direction, only meat, as you will see here. So this is kind of the basics: meat, and more meat. And I also did it quite extremely, so I ate like 90% only red meat. So the thought behind this is that vegetables also includes some poisons, and that kind of the most easily digestible, most nutritious food you can give your body is especially red meat. But some people also include some cheese, some eggs, some fish in this diet as well. And there's a lot of people out there and a lot of information if you want to read more about it, but I will only share my own experience with this diet. So not a recommendation at all actually, but I just want to share my experience as a diabetic trying this type of diet. So in a day I would mostly have 2 meals. One of the meals would be mostly minced meat, so red meat, around 14% fat in that meal. Maybe I would have an egg to this meal. And the other meal would very often be a ribeye steak with a lot of butter. So also quite fatty ribeye. I will always try to get a lot of fat, because I was reading that one of the biggest mistakes people do in this diet is too little fat, so that you need quite a lot of fat, as your body will start to burn that as an energy fuel. So mainly 2 meals a day. I think I would have around 800 grams of minced red meat, and the ribeye would maybe be around half a kilo or something like that. So a lot of red meat. Sometimes I would also change it for some other types of meat, sometimes liver, sometimes I would have some fish as well, and tiny bit of cheese here and there, and also sometimes when I was on the move, maybe some type of sausage, but I was always looking for the types with less like sugar and additives, and more only pure, especially pure beef. But well, maybe not always I could find the purest source here, but at least I would try. What I would notice very quickly was that I needed to take almost nothing when it came to insulin. So like maybe on the green smoothie diet, it would be quite similar. I would take very, very little insulin during the day, which is of course because there is no carbohydrates in the diet. So I would take very low amounts of insulin, which is of course is a plus for me. It made it much easier to regulate. But here it was also kind of a danger. I didn't get it when I tried the diet, but if I would get low blood sugar, what in the world would I do only eating red meat as a diabetic? So that is a good question. So yeah, that I cannot answer, and also maybe one of the reasons why this diet is mostly, I think, impossible to do as a diabetic, because if your blood sugar gets low, what can you eat that has some sugar in it? So that is a big challenge. And very fast I would notice my skin becoming horrible. I remember maybe after 3-4 days, normally my skin is quite okay. I hope it looks okay. But I would see that it would get more and more unclean. A lot of pimples would show, and my skin would not look good after a few days. So that of course was a big negative. What was also interesting is that I kind of stopped going to the bathroom. Not that I was constipated, but just the amount of poop was almost nothing. Like I think every third or fourth day I would go to the bathroom for a number two, and there was almost nothing. So that was also quite interesting. I have been reading about people with similar experience there. Some people would get diarrhea from this diet. I would feel quite fine actually. Also, my energy level would also be quite fine on this type of diet. But I remember after a week eating only meat, I would think, can I really do this for the rest of my life? I was so sick and tired of eating meat after just 1 week. So I was thinking with myself, like, no, this is not sustainable at all. Yes, of course, I feel quite okay. It is nice to not going to the bathroom so often, but my skin looks horrible. It would just get worse and worse and worse for every day. More and more pimple, more and more unevenness. So there was something going on right there. And of course, my blood sugar was quite fine. But at the same time, like again, what would I do if my blood sugar would go low? then I would have a huge challenge. So I didn't exercise so much or do so much like that under the diet because I didn't know what I would do if I would get low blood sugar on this type of diet. And I think also, like if you see all the recommendations out there from doctors and so on, that it is not the most healthy diet for, yeah. I mean, there are a lot of studies on vegetable that it is good for you. And also just the sustainability of eating only red meat or with some small variances with some cheese or fish. For me, at least, it would not be possible going through my whole life like that. And also eating out and so on would also be impossible, and to travel, to have a social life, it would just be quite impossible. But that said, I normally feel actually very good if my dinner is quite low carb and, for example, a big piece of red meat or a piece of fish or something like that. So actually I think my body enjoys quite a lot proteins like that. And for dinner, I would often go more to this direction. If I have like some potatoes, a lot of vegetables, a big piece of red meat, I would feel really amazing. And my blood sugar will also react very good to this type of dinner. So I think in some ways, for me and my body, yeah, red meat is not bad. It makes me feel very good. But at the same time, only doing this, and also for like breakfast, which I sometimes needed to do, just a lot of red meat, I was not enjoying it at all. And I'm also interested what it did to my skin, why it became so bad. So if you have any thoughts about that, please let me know. And also as a diabetic, this is basically a type of keto diet. I know it can be also a bit dangerous, so one should be a bit careful as a diabetic to have no carbs at all in the diet. So there one has to be careful as well. So I think I would definitely not recommend this if you're a diabetic, but to have some of the thoughts here into your normal diet, that is maybe a nice or smart thing to do. But only eating red meat or only eating meat, I would not recommend to anybody. And I really don't think it's healthy if one looks at the evidence base out there. So that is my experience with the carnivore diet. Never again. But it did have some pluses as well. And it was super expensive. Wow, I would pay so much for food every day. Just here in Norway, red meat is already very expensive, so it was easily 300-400 kroners, so $30-40 a day just in food, which is a lot every month. So there is a big challenge. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye.